Across the ancient world, archaeologists continue to uncover objects that challenge what we think we know about human history. Some artifacts appear far more advanced than the civilizations that created them. Others show techniques that do not match any known cultural tradition. Scientific tools such as carbon dating, 3D imaging, and material analysis have helped answer many questions. However, a surprising number of discoveries still remain unexplained. This documentary examines 9 forbidden ancient artifacts that continue to puzzle experts. Each one raises questions about early engineering, cultural development, and lost knowledge. Number 1. The Cajamarquilla alien mummy. In 2021, researchers excavating the ancient city of Cajamarquilla in Peru uncovered a mummy unlike any other found in the region. The body was bound tightly in ropes and placed in a fetal position, but the pose and wrappings differed significantly from known Andean burial styles. The mummy's elongated limbs and proportionally unusual features raised immediate questions. However, the variation could also be the result of deformation caused by burial conditions. Researchers continue to debate the physical anomalies. Carbon dating places the mummy at roughly 800 to 1,200 years old. This makes it part of the late intermediate period when several regional cultures interacted across the Andean highlands. However, the burial location presents a problem. The mummy was found inside a large urban settlement, one associated with trade and administrative activity. These types of elite burials are not usually found at such sites. The position of the body also stands out. Most Andean mummies were placed in sitting positions. This mummy's tightly bound fetal arrangement does not match typical Inca or pre-Inca funerary traditions. The ropes binding the body are unusually well preserved. They appear to have been tied with deliberate patterning, suggesting a ritual function. However, the specific meaning remains unknown. Some archaeologists propose that the burial may represent an outsider brought into the region. However, osteological analysis shows traits consistent with local populations. Other researchers believe the mummy may represent a ritual specialist or an individual associated with ceremonies. However, no associated artifacts were found to support this theory. The face and skull remain a central point of interest. The features appear narrow, with elongated proportions, yet the shape could be affected by post-mortem compression or natural preservation processes. The lack of grave goods further complicates interpretation. Ceremonial burials typically include pottery, offerings, or tools. This burial contains none of these. Some sections of the wrappings show signs of pigment or dye. This suggests possible ritual preparation. However, the patterns do not match known cultural motifs. Radiographic imaging has revealed that the internal organs were intact, indicating the body was not intentionally altered. This contrasts with some other Andean mummification traditions. The location of the burial, inside an urban structure, remains one of the strongest anomalies. Residential or administrative buildings rarely contain burials, especially of unusual style. Researchers continue to examine DNA samples, but contamination has slowed testing. If genetic results become available, they may provide clues about the individual's origins. For now, the Cajamarquilla mummy remains unexplained. Its physical features, burial method, and archaeological context do not align with established patterns. Yet the discovery raises a broader question. How many ancient cultural practices remain undocumented, and how many interpretations are based on incomplete data? The mummy stands as a reminder that Andean history contains gaps that may never be fully resolved. Number 2. The Quimbaya gold airplane models. The Quimbaya civilization of Colombia produced highly detailed gold artifacts between the 4th and 7th centuries AD. Among their most unusual creations are small gold objects that resemble modern aircraft. The artifacts include triangular bodies, upright tail fins, and wing-like structures. Their shapes differ from typical zoomorphic designs found in other Quimbaya pieces. Archaeologists classify them as stylized animals. However, the geometric symmetry and mechanical appearance continue to attract debate. The artifacts are crafted from tumbaga, a gold-copper alloy used extensively in ancient Colombia. The metalworking technique demonstrates sophisticated casting skills. However, the aerodynamic features are the most distinctive aspect. Some of the objects have swept-back wings, stabilizers, and central fuselages. Researchers have noted that the shapes resemble delta-wing aircraft, gliders, or even modern drones. However, interpretations remain speculative. One of the strongest arguments for intentional aerodynamics comes from scale models. When enlarged and balanced, some replicas have demonstrated the ability to glide. However, these tests rely on modern materials and adjustments. Archaeologists maintain that the artifacts likely represent birds, fish, or insects. Yet many examples lack eyes, beaks, or other anatomical features normally used in Quimbaya art. Some artifacts include ventral openings or recessed areas. These features do not align with animal representations, but do resemble mechanical inlets. The symmetry of the designs is also notable. Ancient animal depictions were often asymmetrical, emphasizing stylized movement. These gold pieces, however, are proportionally precise. The placement of the tail fin in particular stands out. Vertical stabilizers are not present in nature, yet these artifacts include upright tails similar to those on aircraft. Other interpretations suggest the objects may have carried symbolic meaning related to travel or spiritual movement. However, the Quimbaya left no written records, making cultural interpretation difficult. Some researchers propose that the objects may have been used in rituals or worn as ornaments. Their small size and metal composition support this idea. The archaeological context also presents complications. Many Quimbaya artifacts were removed from tombs before formal excavation. This loss of context makes accurate interpretation harder. Despite ongoing study, no definitive explanation has emerged. The artifacts continue to occupy a gray area between stylized animal artwork and technological resemblance. The shapes may be coincidental, or they may reflect symbolic imagery not yet understood. However, the aerodynamic qualities continue to fuel ongoing interest. The Quimbaya gold models remain among the most debated artifacts in South American archaeology. Their craftsmanship demonstrates the technical abilities of the culture, but their meaning or possible function remains unknown. Number 3. The Copper Scroll Treasure. Among the Dead Sea Scrolls discovered in the 1950s, one stands apart. It is made not of parchment, but of copper. The Copper Scroll lists more than 60 locations where vast amounts of gold, silver, and ritual objects were supposedly hidden. However, none of these deposits have been verified. Unlike other scrolls, the handwriting style is unusual. The language also differs from typical Hebrew texts of the period. The scroll is dated to around the 1st century AD. However, the method used to engrave the copper sheet required heating and hammering techniques. Unrolling the scroll damaged it. Conservators had to cut it into sections to read it. Some researchers believe the scroll documents real treasure stores hidden during conflict. Others argue it is symbolic or part of a ritual tradition. The described treasure would be extremely valuable. However, the listed locations do not correspond to known archaeological sites. The scroll's unusual format suggests it may have been intended to endure long-term storage. This implies deliberate concealment. Some scholars propose that the scroll was linked to a priestly group. However, there is no consensus. The ambiguity of the described locations has complicated searches. Many references appear metaphorical. Despite numerous expeditions, no treasure associated with the scroll has been found. This raises the possibility that the items were moved or destroyed. The Copper Scroll remains the most enigmatic of the Dead Sea Scrolls. Its meaning continues to be debated. Number 4. The Sigiriya Mirror Wall. At the ancient rock fortress of Sigiriya in Sri Lanka, a section of the western wall is polished to a reflective sheen. This is known as the mirror wall. The plaster surface is composed of lime, egg whites, honey, and other organic materials. However, the method used to achieve its original mirror-like finish remains uncertain. The wall dates to the 5th century AD. Visitors at the time recorded that they could see their reflections clearly. This level of polish suggests advanced surface treatment. However, the technique is not mentioned in historical texts. Over time, the wall accumulated inscriptions. Many are poems and personal notes written by ancient visitors. These writings have provided rare insight into early Sinhala language development. However, they also obscure the original surface. Despite weathering, sections of the polished finish remain intact. This durability suggests deliberate chemical treatment. Some researchers propose that the wall served a decorative purpose for the palace complex. Others believe it may have had ceremonial significance. The reflective properties are unusual in ancient architecture. Few comparable structures exist in South Asia. The process used to create the polish is still not fully understood. Replicating the finish has proven difficult. The mirror wall remains a testament to the technical abilities of ancient builders. Yet the specifics of the method continue to elude researchers. Number 5. The Phaistos Disk. The Phaistos Disk was discovered in 1908 inside a Minoan palace on the island of Crete. It remains one of the most unusual artifacts of the Bronze Age. The disk is made of fired clay. Its surface contains symbols arranged in a spiral pattern. The symbols were impressed using small stamps. This suggests an early form of movable type. However, no other artifact uses this writing system. This makes translation extremely difficult. Some symbols resemble figures, animals, and plants. Others appear abstract. Attempts to decode the script have produced many interpretations. None have been universally accepted. Some researchers believe the disk may record a hymn or ceremonial text. Others suggest it could be a game, calendar, or catalog. The disk's preservation indicates it was intentionally stored. However, the purpose of the object is unknown. The Minoans used other writing systems, such as Linear A. However, the Phaistos symbols do not match these scripts. Radiocarbon dating of associated materials places the disk around 1700 BC. This aligns with the height of Minoan cultural development. Some scholars caution that the disk may be an isolated experiment. However, the sophistication of the stamping technique suggests more examples should exist. The absence of similar artifacts raises questions. Was the disk part of a unique ritual, or was it produced by a small group with specialized knowledge? The meaning of the symbols remains debated. Statistical analysis provides clues, but it cannot confirm any interpretation. For now, the Phaistos Disk remains undeciphered. Its origin and purpose continue to challenge archaeologists. Number 6. Atlit-Yam Underwater Stone Circle. Just off the coast of Haifa, Israel, lies one of the oldest submerged settlements ever discovered. The site of Atlit-Yam dates to around 6900 BC. At its center is a stone circle composed of large, upright megaliths. The stones are arranged around a prehistoric freshwater well. Some of the stones weigh several tons. However, the people of this period had no known method for transporting them over long distances. The site was originally on dry land. However, rising sea levels at the end of the last ice age submerged the area. The stone circle appears deliberately arranged. Each stone contains carved depressions or grooves. Some researchers believe the stones were used in ritual activities related to water. However, the purpose is unclear. Others suggest astronomical alignments. Yet underwater distortion complicates these measurements. Human remains found at the site show evidence of early tuberculosis. This provides rare insight into ancient diseases. However, the burial style also presents mysteries. Bodies were arranged carefully within the settlement. Tools, pottery, and bones have been recovered. These items suggest a stable community. Yet the presence of monumental stones remains unusual for the time. This predates other known megalithic traditions. The construction method is unknown. No tools or pathways associated with moving the stones have been discovered because the site is underwater excavation is slow. Strong currents limit dive time. Despite challenges, Atlit-Yam continues to offer clues about early human organization. However, many questions remain. How did a Neolithic community achieve such construction? And why did they invest so much effort into stones arranged around a well? The meaning of the stone's circle remains unresolved. Its age alone makes it one of the most significant prehistoric mysteries in the region. Number 7. The Sabu Disk. The Sabu Disk was discovered in 1936 inside the tomb of Prince Sabu, a noble of Egypt's first dynasty. This places the artifact at more than 5,000 years old, older than the pyramids at Giza. The object is carved from a fragile stone known as metasiltstone. However, its design is surprisingly complex. It consists of a shallow bowl with 3 symmetrical curved fins extending from its center. The material is brittle and difficult to shape, yet the curves are smooth, and the proportions are consistent. Archaeologists originally classified the artifact as a ceremonial object. However, no similar items have been discovered in any Egyptian tomb from the period. This raises a basic question: why would an early Egyptian artisan create a shape that required such precision for an unknown purpose? Some propose that it may have been used to hold offerings. However, the flange design makes it impractical for this function. Others suggest it may have been a symbolic object, but the form does not match any known Egyptian motif. The disk's aerodynamic appearance has attracted modern engineering comparisons. Some researchers note that the fins resemble impeller blades found in pumps or turbines. However, no evidence of such mechanical technology exists in early dynastic Egypt. The disk also appears balanced when placed on its central axis. This suggests it may have been designed to rotate. However, the stone's fragility would make high-speed rotation impossible without breaking. The symmetry of the fins is notable. They curve inwards in a uniform pattern, requiring careful shaping and planning. Modern analysis shows that the artifact may have been shaped using abrasion and hand tools. However, achieving identical curves in brittle stone would require exceptional skill. One theory suggests the disk may represent an object from the natural world, such as a stylized flower. However, there is no clear resemblance. Another interpretation suggests the disk may have held symbolic status related to celestial beliefs. However, no associated inscriptions support this. Some argue that the shape may be purely artistic. However, the complexity of the design suggests intentional function rather than decoration. The tomb in which it was found also raises questions. Prince Sabu's burial did not contain elaborate goods typical of elite tombs. This makes the presence of such a unique object unusual. X-ray imaging has revealed that the stone shows no signs of repair or modification. This indicates it was carved successfully on the first attempt, an impressive feat given its difficulty. The disk's design remains unmatched in any other known Egyptian artifact. No workshop debris, molds, or duplicates have been discovered. Because the artifact is unique, interpretation remains limited. Archaeologists lack comparative objects that might provide context. Some modern researchers have created 3D printed replicas to test its possible functions. These models can rotate smoothly and exhibit aerodynamic qualities. However, these results rely on modern materials, not the fragile stone used in the original. Despite these experiments, no consensus has been reached. The Sabu Disk remains an anomaly within the archaeological record. It does not match the technology, symbolism, or craftsmanship typically associated with its time. Its purpose is unknown. Its design is unexplained, and its existence challenges assumptions about early dynastic Egypt. If you find these investigations interesting, consider subscribing to Ancient Dilemma for more research into unexplained Diskov. Number 8. The Sanxingdui Masks. In 1986, archaeologists working in Sichuan province uncovered a remarkable collection of bronze, jade, and gold objects belonging to an ancient culture now known as the Sanxingdui civilization. Among these discoveries were enormous golden masks, some with exaggerated eyes, oversized ears, and angular facial features unlike anything in traditional Chinese art. The masks date to around 1200 BC. However, they do not resemble the artistic traditions of the Shang or Zhou dynasties of the same period. This suggests that Sanxingdui was an independent cultural development, one that produced advanced metallurgy with little connection to surrounding regions. The size of the masks is notable. Some measure more than 3 feet across. Their exaggerated features may have been intended for ritual display. The eye shapes are long and almond-like, extending outward from the face. This stylistic decision is not found in any other Chinese Bronze Age culture. The masks were discovered inside large sacrificial pits. These pits contain burned bones, broken statues, and fragments of other ceremonial objects. The destruction appears intentional. However, the reasons for these ritual breakings remain debated. Many of the masks show signs of high craftsmanship. Gold leaf was applied using techniques that required precise heating and controlled adhesives. Bronze masks were cast using advanced alloy mixtures. This suggests metallurgical knowledge beyond what was expected for the region. Some masks appear to have been mounted on wooden or textile backings. However, the organic materials have decayed. One of the most intriguing artifacts is a monumental bronze statue. It features a figure standing upright with a rectangular headdress and extended hands. The proportions differ from known Chinese sculpture. This further highlights the uniqueness of Sanxingdui culture. The absence of written language has made interpretation challenging. No inscriptions have been found at the site. The civilization appears to have emerged suddenly and disappeared just as abruptly. Some researchers propose that environmental changes or earthquakes may have led to migration. Others suggest cultural shifts or conflict may have caused the collapse. However, no clear evidence supports any single explanation. Excavations in 2021 uncovered new pits containing additional gold masks and bronze statues. These finds confirm that Sanxingdui's artistic tradition was extensive. However, the purpose of the masks remains unclear. Some believe they represent deities or ancestors. Others propose they were worn during ceremonies. However, the size and weight make actual wear unlikely. Some scholars suggest the masks may reflect spiritual beliefs involving vision or perception. This is based on the exaggerated eye shapes. Yet, without written records, interpretation is uncertain. The masks remain among the most distinctive and unexplained artifacts in East Asian archaeology. Their craftsmanship suggests a sophisticated society, but their cultural identity remains unknown. Number 9. The Iron Pillar of Delhi. The Iron Pillar of Delhi stands over 20 feet tall and weighs more than 6 tons. It was erected during the Gupta Empire, around the 4th or 5th century AD. However, the pillar has resisted corrosion for more than 1,600 years. This durability has attracted scientific interest. The iron is nearly pure, with very low levels of sulfur and manganese. This composition is unusual for ancient metallurgy. The surface contains a thin protective layer of iron hydrogen phosphate. This layer prevents rust and forms naturally over centuries. However, researchers disagree about why this layer developed so evenly. Some propose the climate played a role. However, similar iron objects in the same region show clear signs of corrosion. The pillar's height and weight suggest it required coordinated labor to transport. Some researchers believe it originated in a different region entirely. Chemical analysis indicates the iron ore was likely sourced from central India. This means the pillar may have been transported hundreds of miles. The inscription on the pillar describes it as a monument honoring a king named Chandra. Most historians identify him as Chandragupta II. The letters are carved using a high level of precision. This suggests advanced tools and careful craftsmanship. The pillar may have been attached to a larger complex or temple. However, the original location remains uncertain. Attempts to replicate the corrosion-resistant properties have not fully succeeded. Modern experiments can recreate similar iron, but not the natural protective layer. Some researchers argue the pillar reflects an unusually pure smelting process. Others believe long-term environmental interactions played a greater role. Despite decades of study, the pillar's resilience remains partially unexplained. Its metallurgical properties exceed expectations for ancient India. It stands as a rare example of technology that has defied natural decay, and it raises questions about forgotten mechanisms of ancient iron production.